People talk about trust until it breaks, until the person you swore forever to starts acting like a stranger, with a very specific plan. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to Family Tales by Ethan so you never miss out on these fascinating stories. And let us know what you're watching today in the comments. I always thought my marriage with Megan was one of those quiet, steady things people write about when they're trying to prove forever exists. 6 years together, 4 years married. Inside jokes, dinner rituals, me bringing her favorite takeout after long days, her planning date nights like she was curating a museum exhibit. We fit, we laughed. We argued about nothing and made up without keeping score. That's why the change, when it began, felt less like a crack and more like an earthquake coming from underneath my feet. It didn't erupt overnight. It started in small ways that could be explained away. Megan carrying her phone everywhere, even to the kitchen. A new password set on her device that she never used before. The sudden habit of stepping outside to take calls. At first I joked, "What are you running, a spy ring?" And she laughed it off with a shrug about work emails. But then the humor slid away and something else took its place. Secrecy so practiced it felt rehearsed. She'd take a call and disappear, or keep her face down over the table like someone hiding a secret note. Little things really, but they collected like rain, until they became a flood I couldn't ignore. Conversations that used to tumble out between us now felt measured, like she had learned to hold the important parts back. When I brought up future plans, anniversaries, saving for a new car, she nodded and let the topic die. There were moments that made me doubt myself, as if I were inventing suspicion. But then there were moments I couldn't explain away. One afternoon, she told me she was meeting a coworker for coffee. I happened to be in the neighborhood and decided on a whim to surprise her. I parked and watched her outside the cafe, phone pressed to her ear, moving with a seriousness I'd never seen. I didn't plan to eavesdrop, but 2 phrases floated out. "It's almost ready and starting fresh soon." They landed like a stone in my gut. When she came home that evening, I kept my voice casual and asked how the coffee went. She gave me a neat, rehearsed answer about a friend complaining about a boyfriend. Then, almost offhand, suggested we consolidate important documents and account info in case of emergency. On the surface, it sounded responsible. In context, with the phone behavior and the secretive calls and the way she had been pulling away, it smelled like preparation. Preparation for something other than a minor household inconvenience. I asked what she meant by emergency, and she shrugged, the kind of shrug that holds more than casual indifference. "Just life stuff," she said. "It's smart to be organized." That phrase, "smart to be organized," kept replaying in my head. Something about the timing didn't sit right. We had never been the type to micromanage finances together. We trusted each other and generally kept things practical. The sudden focus on consolidating everything felt like a script someone handed her the night before and told her to memorize. I wanted to be fair. Maybe it was stress. Maybe she'd been anxious at work. But when my gut tightens like that, I don't ignore it. A few days later, while Megan was out, I logged into our joint account because the unease had become a persistent itch. There were small withdrawals, nothing dramatic, but little transfers and sums that didn't go to utilities, groceries, or anything obvious. They were the kind of transactions that, alone, you could write off as routine. Together they drew a map that pointed somewhere I didn't want to go. I considered confronting her, but the 2 possibilities, being wrong or being right, both scared me. If I was wrong, I'd look ridiculous. If I was right, I needed to act carefully. I called an old college friend who had become a lawyer and spoke to him without dramatics, trying to keep my voice level while my throat tightened. He didn't tell me I was imagining things. He told me to protect myself. At first, the idea of moving assets felt like betrayal on my end. I kept picturing our wedding, all the late-night plans and small promises. Was I about to betray all of that by turning practical and defensive? But the alternative felt worse. To be blindsided and have everything I'd worked for carved away while I argued about feelings in court. My friend walked me through legal steps I could take quietly and cleanly. Transfers to a trust, putting property in my mother's name, making sure the paperwork was invulnerable. It was sterile, almost surgical, and painfully necessary. I called my mom, Susan, and because I couldn't tell her everything, I told her, "I need you to hold something for me for a while. It's just a precaution. She didn't pry. Her voice, steady and loving, told me to do what I needed to do and that she'd help. The relief I felt when she said that was shameful and profound at once. It was the sort of relief you get when you finally stop holding your breath. That night, while Megan was out of the house, I initiated the transfers. I moved the bulk of our liquid assets, investments, and even the deed paperwork into a trust under my mother's name. I left enough in the joint account to keep appearances, bills, small purchases, the usual. My hands shook as I filled out forms and notarized signatures. Each signature felt like closing a chapter I hadn't realized I was reading from both sides. When she came home, she greeted me with a kiss and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I kept a straight face. Inside, I was a whirlpool of guilt and relief. For 3 days, I tried to act normal, to let the domestic rhythms continue so she wouldn't suspect anything. She was, if anything, unusually bright, laughing more talkative about mundane things, which only made me more suspicious. The subject of the finances vanished from her lips entirely, never again raised after I pressed her about it in the kitchen. That silence was not comforting. It felt like the pause before a storm. I kept scanning her face for betrayal, for any hint of the person who would toss our life away for a plan. Every time she glanced up and caught me looking, she quickly returned to the book in her hand or the television. The evasion small but precise. 2 weeks later, I learned exactly what that plan was. She sat me down on the couch one evening with that practiced stillness and said, "We need to talk." I knew. My heart dropped and a cold logic took over. She told me she wanted a divorce, said it in a voice that was not angry but flat, as if she were checking items off a list. She spoke of needing space, of rediscovering herself. And then, as if reciting talking points, she said she'd made sacrifices and deserved more. My head spun when she added that a friend had been helping her see things more clearly. The phrase landed like a confirmation. She didn't look like someone in pain. She looked like someone on a mission. When I received the official paperwork days later, the demands were not about fairness, they were surgical. Precise and aggressive, half the house, my savings, the car and spousal support clauses that didn't match her salary or our history. It read like a plan, not a plea. Each clause felt personal, targeted, as if someone had taught her how to ask for everything, and how to make me doubt what was left. I started to dig deeper, not to ruin her, but to understand what had shifted so radically. That's when I found the breadcrumbs. A coworker named Jake, threads in social media, and the conversation in the cafe that never should have been so significant. But now, tracing them back, made the whole picture painfully clear. It's strange how silence can be louder than words. After Megan dropped the divorce papers, the house itself felt different. Every sound hollow, every room echoing with the ghost of something that used to live there. I stopped sleeping properly. I'd lie awake and replay every conversation we'd had over the past 6 months, looking for signs I'd missed. There were plenty. Her sudden interest in finances, the quiet phone calls, the nervous glances, each one a loose thread that, when pulled together, revealed a pattern I hadn't wanted to believe existed. Still, I needed proof. It wasn't enough to know my heart was right. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I started small, checking social media, emails, mutual friends. That's when the name Jake started showing up more often than coincidence would allow. A few likes, a few comments, a photo from the same cafe I'd seen her at the day she said she was meeting a friend. My stomach turned when I realized the timestamps matched perfectly. He was the friend. I wasn't ready to confront her outright. Instead, I reached out to someone she trusted. Lisa, one of her old friends from work. I played dumb, asking if she knew anything about a new guy Megan might be spending time with. Lisa hesitated, then deflected, saying she didn't want to get involved. The way she said it told me everything I needed to know. Later that evening, another mutual acquaintance, Emily, called me back after I'd spoken with her earlier that day. She sounded anxious, like someone about to say something she shouldn't. "I'm not supposed to tell you this," she said. "But Megan's been seeing a guy from her office. His name's Jake. He's been involved. Helping her figure things out." "Helping her?" I repeated. "You mean helping her plan a divorce?" Emily didn't answer directly. "Just be careful," she whispered and hung up. The following Saturday, I parked a block away from Megan's new apartment. I told myself I was there just to understand, to see it for myself. Around noon, they walked out together, Megan and Jake. No hand-holding, no public affection, but the body language told the story anyway. They leaned close when they spoke, the kind of closeness you don't share with someone new unless there's history or intimacy. I didn't follow them. I didn't need to. I sat in my car, staring through the windshield at the space they'd just left, feeling like the last fool in a very predictable play. Back home, anger gave way to something colder. Calculation. I wasn't going to throw things or beg her to come back. I was going to let her walk into the trap she'd built for herself. I already knew she'd find nothing waiting on the other side of the divorce settlement. No assets, no house, no easy payday. I'd made sure of that weeks before. But what I hadn't expected was how organized she'd been. Her lawyer came to the mediation with a binder thick enough to look like a corporate lawsuit. She sat beside him, composed, her eyes dry and sharp. They listed demands like reading a grocery list. Half the house, the savings, my investments, the car, spousal support. When they finished, my lawyer simply handed over a stack of papers. "Before we proceed," he said evenly, "I believe everyone should review these." Megan's attorney took them and began to read. At first, his expression was neutral. Then confusion crept in, followed by frustration. "Wait, these transfers are dated weeks before the divorce filing," he said. "That's correct," my lawyer replied. "All assets were legally transferred into a trust under my client's mother's name. The trust is irrevocable and properly notarized." The silence that followed was almost cinematic. Megan's lawyer looked at her, stunned. She grabbed the papers, scanning the notarized signatures, the dates, the legal seals, her face draining of color before it flushed bright red. "You planned this," she hissed at me. "You knew I was going to file." I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Her own silence filled in the blanks. Her lawyer cleared his throat and muttered something about needing to reconsider strategy, but we all knew what that meant. When we stepped out into the hallway afterward, she cornered me, her eyes blazing. "This isn't over," she said through clenched teeth. I looked at her, calm for the first time in weeks. "I already regret one thing," I said quietly. "Trusting you." That broke something in her. Over the next few days, the calls started, first tearful, then angry, then desperate. She'd alternate between begging me to talk and accusing me of ruining her life. My phone filled with unread messages, each one more chaotic than the last. I ignored them all. My lawyer advised against any contact, and I agreed. There was nothing left to say. But when she realized silence wasn't working, she tried something new. Damage control. I started hearing from mutual friends that Megan was telling people the divorce was a hoax, part of some twisted test to see how I'd react. Others heard her say it was a social experiment or even a miscommunication that got out of hand. It would have been laughable if it weren't so pathetic. Some people believed her for a while. Her brother even sent me an angry message about being heartless. But truth has a way of leaking, even through the tightest lies. A few weeks later, I got a message from Matt, a casual friend of ours. "You need to see this," he wrote. When we met, he showed me his phone, screenshots of texts between Megan and Jake. My pulse kicked up as I read. "Once the settlement's done, we'll have everything we need," Megan had written. Jake's reply made my skin crawl. "Don't back down. Make him feel guilty if you have to. He owes you. We'll start fresh once you've got the money." It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was strategy. She hadn't simply fallen out of love. She'd been plotting, manipulating, coached every step of the way. Jake had promised her a future funded by my life's work. And the moment it all fell apart, the moment she realized there was no money to take, Jake vanished. Deleting his social media, blocking mutual contacts, disappearing like smoke. When the screenshots made their rounds among friends, Megan's narrative collapsed completely. Her supporters fell silent, her family withdrew, and the woman who had once been the center of every room became a ghost walking through her own mistakes. By the time the divorce was finalized, all she had left were her personal belongings and the consequences of her own greed. The final court date was strangely quiet. Megan sat across from me, her face drawn and pale, makeup carefully done as if she still believed appearances could rewrite reality. She didn't look defiant anymore, just tired like someone who'd run out of excuses. Her lawyer barely spoke. The judge skimmed through the documents, asked a few procedural questions, then declared the marriage officially dissolved. Just like that, 6 years reduced to a few signatures and a wooden gavel. When we stepped out into the hallway, she lingered, like she wanted to say something that might still change the ending. I waited. Her eyes glistened, not with remorse, but with disbelief. "I didn't think you'd actually do this," she whispered. "You didn't think I'd survive it," I replied. There wasn't anything left to add. She walked away without looking back, heels clicking in echoes that faded before the elevator doors closed behind her. For a long time after, I thought anger would keep me company, but what came instead was quiet. Not peace exactly, but the kind of silence that lets you rebuild without noise. I spent more time with my mother, who never once said, "I told you so." She just cooked, asked about my sleep, and handed me legal mail when it arrived. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Months passed. Megan's name began to fade from conversations. Friends stopped walking on eggshells around me. Even the house, emptier now but lighter somehow, started to feel like home again. Then one afternoon I got a letter. No return address, just my name written in handwriting I knew too well. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Jake's gone. He left as soon as he realized there was no money. You were right about everything. I thought I was getting ahead. I ended up with nothing. I hope you're happy now." There was no signature. She didn't need one. I folded the letter once, neatly, and tucked it back into the envelope. I didn't burn it. I didn't frame it. I just slid it into a drawer, a reminder that sometimes losing someone isn't tragedy. It's rescue. I thought that was the end of it. But life has a strange sense of irony. About 3 months later, while grabbing coffee near my office, I saw her again. She looked thinner, her eyes dull, her posture slouched in a way I'd never seen before. She didn't notice me at first, fumbling through her bag for coins she probably didn't have. When she finally looked up, recognition flickered across her face. Shock, guilt, maybe even a hint of relief. "Ethan," she said softly. "Megan," I answered. There was a pause so long it almost hurt. Finally, she said, "I heard your mom's been sick. I'm sorry." "She's fine," I said, keeping my tone even. "She's stronger than people think." Megan nodded, eyes falling to the ground. "I really messed up," she murmured, almost to herself. For the first time since everything had begun, I felt no anger, just distance. Whatever love I'd once had for her was buried under too much truth to ever resurface. "We both learned something," I said quietly. "You learned that greed doesn't build a future. And I learned that trust, once broken, doesn't heal, it just teaches." She didn't respond. I handed her a few bills to pay for her coffee before she could protest, then walked out. I didn't look back this time either. Outside, the air felt different, crisp, clean, new. I realized then that surviving betrayal isn't about revenge or closure. It's about reclaiming your story from the people who tried to rewrite it. And as I walked down the street, I found myself thinking, maybe the best revenge isn't making them regret losing you. Maybe it's simply living a life so full that their absence feels small.